Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Grillin' and Chillin'. I'm Sean, I'm your host. You know, in my last video, I showed you how you could make a really simple, quick, and easy, tasty cheesesteak sandwich. Even if you have problems cooking, even if you think you can't cook, I showed you that yes, you can. And I gave you that simple recipe. And I had so much positive feedback from that I thought that I would show you another quick and simple recipe that you can make even if you think you can't cook. So this recipe comes from a real good friend of mine, Drew, and he calls this Bachelor Chow. And it's a very quick and easy, just a few ingredient recipe that will amaze anybody that you cook it for. So if you've got some company coming over and you want to wow them with your culinary skills, you can make this recipe and it takes you less than 15 minutes. Just a few simple ingredients is all you need. And I'm gonna show you how you can make some delicious, and I'm gonna try to get through without saying that 16 times. I'm gonna show you how you can make a really quick and simple meal that seems like you put a lot of effort into it and you really didn't. So welcome to Grillin' and Chillin' time. Okay, so first, before you do anything, you know you got to assemble your ingredients. So let me show you what we're working with today on Grillin' and Chillin'. Got some peas and carrots, some frozen peas and carrots, but they're thawed. I have a cup of cooked rice. I have a can of spiced ham. I'm trying to say that without getting sued, if you can read between the lines. Then I have about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of light soy sauce. And I have 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And I think I said teaspoon, this is actually tablespoons. A tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of light soy sauce. Then of course I've got my wok and I have my outdoor grill. So those are your ingredients, and I'm going to show you how you can assemble those ingredients and make a really quick and easy stir-fried meal that is absolutely fantastic. So like I said, my friend Drew showed me how to make this. And of course, I'm gonna put my own spin on it because I can't just go simply by the same recipe that he used. So I'm gonna put the Sean spin on this and show you how to make this Bachelor Chow, as he calls it. But before you go into anything and you start making this, what you really need to do is do some prep work. So you really need to cook about a cup of white rice. Now, you can do that the day before, the night before, a couple of hours before. It really doesn't matter. Or you can do it while you're assembling your dish. It really doesn't matter, but I prefer to kind of prepare and prep ahead. So I cooked mine yesterday. Now, if you think that cooking rice is hard, I'm gonna show you that it's really not. If you don't have a rice cooker, then I'm going to show you how you can make some fluffy, non-sticky rice on the stove top. And that's what we're going to go to. And we're going to do that first. And then we're going to come back out here and I'm going to show you how to assemble all the rest of the ingredients into some Bachelor Chow. Now there are 2 key ingredients to making Bachelor Chow. The first one being rice. And to make rice properly, you really need a rice cooker. Now I have a rice cooker, but in case you don't, I'm going to show you how you can make fluffy, non-sticky rice on the stove top, and it's really easy. You just have to pay attention to what it is you're doing. So the very first thing that you're going to need is a cup of white rice. I like to use jasmine. It's probably one of the better rices for making this type of dish. Now, before you get ready to cook your rice, it's very important that you rinse it because you want to get rid of all of the excess starch that's covering the grain of rice, because that's what's making the rice stick if you cook your rice on the stove top. So you have to rinse it until the water is almost clear. Now, you're never going to get the water to be 100% clear, but you do need to rinse it. And the key number here is 4. That's the magic number. So I'm just going to get some cold water. I'm just going to rinse my rice. Now, I've seen lots of methods about how to rinse the rice, and the one that I think is the most traditional is to put it in a bowl and hand mix it like this, and you just go in one direction. You don't want to go in different directions because that can actually break up the grain of rice. Now you see how milky the water is? Look at that. See how milky that water is? So you want to drain that. As much as you can. And then we're going to go with number 2. This is rinse 2. And you should see in this rinse the water is a little less milky. So you just keep on rinsing. And you want to do this a minimum of 4 times. No more than 5, I would think, would be enough. You see, the water's still milky, but not as milky. It's a little less milky. So every time you do this, the water should be less and less milky as you wash away all that starch. Number 3. And you just get your fingers and you just kind of finger the rice as you move it around in the bowl. And you see there the water is less milky now. It's getting more opaque, more translucent. This is 4, last time. And you see now how you can see all the rice in the bottom of the bowl. There's way less milkiness. The water's way more clear. And you drain that out. You don't have to drain all of the water, but get the majority of it, 95% or so, because you don't want to lose your rice. And that is how you wash your rice. Now that your rice has been rinsed, you're going to put it in a really good pot. And you want to put about 1.5 cups of water over your rice. Put it on your stove top. Turn that sucker on high. And you're going to let it come to a boil. And as soon as it comes to a boil, you're going to cover it really tightly with a good tight sealing lid. Make sure that it has a vent here so it can vent some of that steam. And you're going to let it cook or boil for 4 minutes. That's the other magic number right there, is 4. Okay, so I saved you the agony of literally watching water boil in a pot. And I'm to the point now to where my rice is almost boiling. So it's very important that while you're doing this process, you don't leave your pot of rice and forget about it. So you really need to, while the pot is beginning to come to a boil, you really need to stay there and watch it. And as soon as it starts coming to a boil, like what it is right now, that's when you need to place your really tight lid on your pot. And then you need to let it boil like this for 4 minutes. So you set your kitchen timer for 4 minutes, and you stand here and you stay with it for 4 minutes because you want to watch carefully what you're doing. The idea here is to let as much of the water boil off as you possibly can within this 4 minutes. So I'll see you again in 4 minutes and we'll talk about what the next step's going to be. Okay, so it's been 4 minutes and you can see that most of the water has cooked down. Now you're going to take a wooden spoon and you're just going to stir like one time, go around the outside of the pot. Just make sure there's nothing sticking. You see how that rice is still kind of all clumpy and sticking together? You're going to take your lid, set it back on. You're going to turn the settings on your stove down to the lowest setting that it can possibly go. And you're going to have to leave it alone for anywhere between 15 and 18 minutes. So that's why it's really important to set timers and to watch your rice, because you don't want it to burn. So I'm setting my timer here for 15 minutes. I've got my burner set on the lowest settings it'll possibly go, and I'm going to let it sit here for about 15 minutes. I'm going to come and check on it. Okay, so it has been 15 minutes. Checking on my rice here. Look at that. I think that's done. See how that rice is fluffy? So this is where you want to get your fork, and you fork your rice. That's right, I said it. Fork your rice. And you just want to fluff it up. And you'll probably have some that's stuck to the bottom of the pan. And you know, that's okay. But you fork your rice there. And you notice how just about all of that water, like 98% of it, has cooked out of the rice. And it is fluffy. And it's not very sticky. So you have your rice now that will be perfect for making your Bachelor Chow. And the great thing about this is you can make this ahead of time. Like, do it the day before and then put it in the refrigerator and wait until you get ready to make your Bachelor Chow. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention when I was cooking my rice is that normally you would want to put a big pinch of salt in with your rice. Now, if you'll notice, I did not do that, and that's because the Bachelor Chow has so much other ingredients in it that's salty that I was afraid that it would over season my dish with salt. So I chose not to put any salt into my rice. But normally what you would do was, when the rice would be, you were initially boiling your rice for that first 4 minutes, you're going to put a big pinch of salt to whatever taste level you desire in with it at that point in time. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that, yes, I know you're supposed to salt your rice. And no, I didn't salt it on purpose, because the other ingredients that's in Bachelor Chow are already so salty. I didn't want to over season anything. All right, so now that you've learned how to make some rice on the stovetop without a rice cooker, let's get into making the main dish. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to turn your grill on and put it on about medium heat. Or if you're cooking inside, you can do it on the stove. Make it about medium heat. Take about half or a tablespoon of your extra virgin olive oil. Put it in the wok, swirl it around, coat the bottom of it nice and good. And you want to heat that oil up and heat that wok up and get it nice and hot. So I've kind of already done that, and my wok is getting up to temperature now. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got my first ingredient, which is my can of spiced ham, and I cut it up into about 1-inch chunks like this. Okay, so try to make it as even as you possibly can. You're going to dump the whole thing in your wok, and you're going to stir fry this for about 3 to 5 minutes. Constantly stirring. And it's best to use a wooden spatula or wooden spoon when you're cooking with a wok. And you want to constantly keep this stirred up. Number one, it keeps it coated in oil and keeps it from sticking. And number two, it keeps it from burning on one side. So you want to try and flip this as much as you possibly can, but yet at the same time you want to get a good crisp on it. So I've already been stir frying this for approximately a minute. So let's try this and see what happens here. We're going to go all professional, see how bad I can mess this up. Here we go. And there we go, one more. There we go, baby. So we still got a few minutes to let this stir fry. And thanks to the magic of editing, I probably, depending on how this goes, will or will not edit this part out. So see, that looked like a lot of meat to start off with, but it's going to cook down some, okay? So you're also going to get a little bit of moisture out of that. Now, one thing I want to go back and re-emphasize is when I was showing you how to make the rice, is that I did not put any salt in my rice. And normally you would put a big pinch of salt in your rice when you started to boil it. I did not do that because this canned spiced ham has a lot of salt already in it, and the soy sauce has a lot of salt in it. So you definitely can make this too salty, which I did not want to do. So that's why, whoops, jumper. That's why I did not salt my rice, because I like a lot of salt in my food. I can usually look at food and tell that it needs salting. However, nothing is quite as disheartening as going through all of this and effort in making this dish and then realizing when you take your first bite, uh-oh, I oversalted the hell out of this. So you got to be careful with the salt, and not everybody likes a lot of salt either, right? Try this again, see how well I can mess this up. 1, 2, there you go, baby. And looking, you see how we're getting a nice crisp on that spiced ham, that canned spiced ham. Now you don't have to cook your, or you don't have to cut your ham into as big a chunks as what I did. If you want to cut it a little bit smaller, that's cool. You can cut it in 1/2 inch chunks, so you can take this chunk here and cut that in half. But the thing you want to remember is you got to try to make everything as equal in size as you possibly can, so everything cooks equally. And of course, the smaller the chunks you cut it in, the more room this is going to take up in your wok. Now, I don't have a huge wok, okay? So this is going to get full really, really quickly whenever I start putting all the rest of my ingredients in there. I'm just going to continue to stir fry this up for about another minute. I'm getting a nice good crisp on all of this. Now we're still going to continue to cook this, remember. Yeah. We're getting there. All right, we're gonna do one more trick. One more saute. Here we go. And flip, flip. Got good height on that one. Did you see that? Yeah. Okay. So we're looking somewhere around the 3-minute mark here. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're looking good. All right, so it's been probably a little over 3 minutes here. Look at that, I got some good, nice, crisp on that spiced ham. Nice sear on it, which is what you want. Now you're gonna take your next ingredient, which is a bag of frozen peas and carrots. Now I'm using about 3/4 of a bag of this. So I'm not using the whole thing. It's up to you. You use how much you want or how little you want, but you wanna make sure that you thaw it out first. Don't put it in there frozen. So I've got my peas and my carrots. I'm gonna dump that in. And start stirring that around. And you're gonna wanna do this for about 5 minutes. Now's when you wanna take the rest of your oil and you wanna drizzle that in as well. Get it nice and coated in there. Give it a good stir. And we're keeping everything on a medium heat. We're not turning it up high. All right, so we're just gonna let that cook for another 3 to 5 minutes, constantly keeping a stir on it so nothing burns, and that oil's gonna help keep everything from sticking to your wok. Here we go. 1, 2. You always got to do it 2. I don't know why. It's like a rule. So, what if you don't have a wok? Well, you just use the biggest pan that you've got. And if you don't have a big pan, you need to go out and get one, because everybody needs a big pan to cook in. That is looking fantastic. I'm going to see if I can get through this episode here without saying the word delicious 16 times. I have to think of some other adjective to describe my cooking with. All right, we are looking great. Good height on that pea. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so we're just going to let this cook for anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. Man, it is a beautiful Sunday afternoon out here. Just wanted to show you my beautiful backyard while I'm slowly cooking my canned spiced ham and peas and carrot mixture. And look, there's, I don't know how well you can see, but there's Mary Jane, my dog. This is my backyard paradise here. This is the outdoor kitchen, the outdoor grilling and chilling kitchen. Okay, so we are approaching the 5-minute mark here. Just gonna do another couple of flips. Flip, flip, there we go. So we're approaching the 5-minute mark. We got everything cooking in here. Still getting good crisp sear on that spiced ham. So now we add our final ingredient, which is our cup of cooked rice that I showed you how to do earlier, which is still nice and fluffy. All right, so just kind of put that in. And I'm only going to do this like maybe half at the time, because I want to mix it around in there, and I may wind up, you know, not using all of my rice. So I don't want to get too much of a rice to everything else ratio going on in there. See, I got a good amount of rice in there, but I need a little bit more. So I'm probably going to wind up not using this whole entire cup of rice. But it's up to, you know, individual preferences. You can use as little or as much rice as you want. I'm thinking I may wind up not using the whole thing. All but about that much is what I'm going to use. So now we're going to take our light soy sauce, cover that completely, and we're going to stir fry this for just a couple of minutes. And you got to make sure that you mix all of that soy sauce in with all the other ingredients to get everything nice and coated as best as you can in that soy sauce. You're going to get a nice, good, stir-fried Bachelor Chow here. See how everything is coated in that soy sauce, getting it nice and brown. And we're just going to do this for just a couple of minutes. And then you have your one dish stir-fried Bachelor Chow. If you're a bachelor, that gives you at least 2 or 3 nights worth of a dinner. Or if you're having company over, that's going to give you 3 or 4 good servings of a stir fry that will impress the hell out of your company. And they'll be like, I did not know you were such a cook. And your response to that would be, well, yes, I am. And there you go. That's been a couple of minutes. Got everything all stir-fried around in there. And there is your completed product, stir-fried Bachelor Chow, as my friend Drew calls it. Next, we're gonna go inside for the plating and for the good old taste test. Right, so we moved back inside now for the taste test. Got it all put in a bowl right here. It looks fantastic. Can't wait to dig into this. And since this is stir fries Asian, so I got my bamboo wrapped bowl and my chopsticks right here, good old wooden chopsticks. We're gonna dig into this, see what kind of a mess that I can make out of this. Man, this looks fantastic. All right, here we go. Oops, gotta get some rice in there. There we go. Oh, that definitely does not suck. Wow, that is good. Just for me, just the right amount of salt using the regular can of spiced ham. It does come in a low sodium variety, but I used the regular version, and that light soy sauce, no salt in the rice, and boy, it is freaking fantastic. Wow. Got the perfect sear on my spiced ham, cut up into the right bite-sized chunks. That rice is not sticking together. It is fluffy and it is delicious. Oh, I used my word. Yeah. That is fantastic. And it took, what, less than 10 minutes really to make, if you don't count the time that you invested in cooking the rice. That's why I always say I recommend to cook the rice the night before or the day before. And it'll store in the refrigerator easy, right? No problem. So that is your quick and easy Bachelor Chow, as my friend Drew calls it. In reality, it's just stir-fried rice with some canned spiced ham in there. And you can substitute whatever meat or protein that you want. You can do chicken, you can do regular pork, you can do beef, or tofu if you want to make it vegetarian. So that is the basis for that is the rice and the vegetables, and then you add whatever protein you want to add to it, and you've got a delicious Asian stir-fried meal that you can make in less than 10 minutes and wow anybody. If you've got that date that you are bringing over to the house for the first time, that's what you can make. You don't need any side dishes with it because it's got all the veggies right there in it. It's got the peas, it's got the carrots, you got your rice, you got your protein. That's all that you need. And let me tell you this, if you're gonna go and buy a wok, if you see this and you're like, holy shit, I gotta have a wok. Or if you already have a wok, let me tell you something about storing your wok. You wanna make sure that wherever you store your wok, before you put it up, number one, you don't want to wash it in the dishwasher. Number two, you don't want to use like a really abrasive pad on it. You want to gently clean it with warm water and soap, some like Dawn dishwashing liquid, and you rub it with your hands or with a rag, and then you rinse it out and let it air dry. That's because you're not going to want to take off all of your seasoning on your wok. So all that black stuff and everything that you see on there, all the discolorations, that seasoning, that's adding flavor to everything that you cook. If you scrub it off, you're not going to get your seasoning in there. So that's number one. Number two, when you store your wok, before you do that, take some oil on a rag. It doesn't matter what kind of oil, olive oil, vegetable oil, canola, doesn't matter. Take some oil on a rag, rub all of the inside of that wok, and keep it oiled up. Otherwise, it'll rust. So there's your tip on how to clean and store your wok. So that's it for this episode of Grilling and Chilling. I'm Sean. I'm gonna go eat. Man, this is delicious.